what's up, guys? So right now you're about to watch a walkthrough of the application I created titled Dreamcatcher. And basically, the application is was created using React Native and Firebase. And what you're going to learn in this course, you're going to learn how to add data to your Firebase database using React Native. You're also going to learn how to get that data shown on your screen. You're going to learn how to register users and log in those users. You're also going to have users like comments and then also comment on thoughts as well. So I hope you enjoy this walkthrough, and let's get into it. Hey, what's up, geeks? Darron Brown here. Now let's get started into our React Native Firebase tutorial. But before we actually do that, I want you guys to go to the React Native website. Now, if you're familiar with building any kind of React Native application, you'll know that there's two ways to build a React Native website. You can do that using Expo, or you can do that with React Native CLI. Now, Expo, from what I understand, I haven't done Expo in a while, it still builds exactly the same way from what I see. But with the React Native CLI, you no longer are required to have the React Native CLI installed globally onto your system. So now what we have to do is just simply do Node, and install Watchman using Brew. And also, if you take a look at, make sure we have CocoaPods installed as well. And that's about it. And then from there, we can actually start building our React Native application. So before we actually build anything, I want you guys to make sure you have the latest version of React Native up and running, because if you don't, there may be issues. Believe me, before starting this video, I had a few issues. So anyways, I'm going to go to the React Native Firebase website, and I'll place the link in the description as so you guys can know exactly where to go. And we're just going to follow the installation process that they have labeled here. So to get started, I want you guys to go ahead and just copy everything that we have right here. All right. We're going to open our terminal. Okay. And I'm going to name our project. Actually, before I go here, I'm going to build our project on my desktop. So let's go to our desktop. And now I'm going to run that command. Call it my thoughts. All right, now that our application is finished building, we're going to go ahead and continue the installation process. So I'm going to actually change my directory to my thoughts. Okay, I want to make sure I'm there. And then let's go back to React Native Firebase's website and continue the installation. So because we did it this way, we can actually go ahead and skip step two. Skip to step two. I'm going to install it on iOS. So I'm actually going to go to step 3. So before we can get started, we actually had to build our Firebase project. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And hopefully you guys have a Google account. I'm assuming you do. I'm going to go to my console. I'm going to create a new project. See, I already have a project titled My Thoughts, so I'm going to go ahead and create, we're going to name this one My Thoughts -2. All right. Accept Firebase's terms. Let's build as I accept. All right. And I'll catch you guys once this is finished being completed. And before we add our application, we're going to go ahead and just add some data to our database. So I want you guys to click on the Development tab and then select Database. Click on Create Database. We're going to do this in test mode. All right, now that our database is finished being created, let's go ahead and click on Start Collection. And our collection ID, we're just going to name this My Thoughts -2. We want our document ID to be automatically generated. We're going to have a few columns. So similar to basically the way Firebase builds its databases as a non-relational database. And for those of you who are familiar with relational databases, basically our fields work as columns. So we're going to go ahead and add our category. Category is going to be a string, and we're going to name our first string. We're going to name it funny. Our fields, we're going to name this comment count. This is going to be a number. We're going to set the value equal to 0. Next, we're going to have another column titled likes count. This is going to be a number as well. Add this is 0. After that, we're going to have our thought. This is going to be our thought text. Make sure we uppercase our text. It's going to be a string, and then we're going to name this, this is my random thought. We're going to have a timestamp. That's just lowercase our timestamp. This is going to be a date. Excuse me, a timestamp. We can just set whatever today's date is, and then add our last column, which is going to be username, and then this is going to be my username. Actually, I'll name it GeekMODE. All right, cool. As you can see, we saved our document. Now that we saved our document, we're going to go ahead and actually add Firebase to our project. So while this is loading, as we said, we're going to do the iOS setup. So we're going to go ahead and all the way until we get our Google Services info plist. So we're going to name this you guys can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name mine com.geekmode, my thoughts -2. And we're going to name this my thoughts -2. All right. Actually, I'm just going to name it my thoughts. Now let's go ahead and download our Google Service plist. I think I may already have one in my Finder, so let me see. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one. All right, I'll keep that one right there. Okay, next. Now, we're going to go ahead and open our project. So I'm going to go to my iOS project, folder, and I'm going to open it. And now I'm going to open our project in our workspace. Okay, now I want us to go into our My Thoughts project, and then under our My Thoughts document, we're going to, I'm going to open up a new smart folder, go to my downloads. Actually, we're going to add new files. All right, let's go to our downloads, grab our Google Service Info plist, and make sure we have these two boxes checked. As you can see, we have our Google services in our My Thoughts directory. And now the thing we have to do next, we have to actually scroll down. We just did this part of our installation. Now in our appdelegate.m file, let's go ahead and copy this. Let's add that right here. All right. Now next, copy this piece of code right here, starting from the if condition. And then we have the did finish. We see that. We go back to the website where it says did finish launching with options. Did finish launching with options. And right at the top of that, we're going to paste in our code. All right, let's make sure we save our file as well. And one more thing, I want you guys to go to your terminal and then go back one directory. And we're going to type in the command npm install -- save React Native Firebase. Now the reason I'm doing this is because the Firebase that they have is installed at the top of our the installation process. I was having trouble with this right? So I just went ahead and just installed this React Native Firebase directly. And for me, it works pretty fine. So I'm going to continue to do that. Make sure that your command looks identical to mine, and then press enter. Now that our package is finished being installed, we can continue with the rest of our installation. I want you guys to go back to your Xcode project and then open your pod file. All right. So we're going to go ahead and I'm actually going to copy these. Well, I thought I was going to copy those. I want you to type in pod, add your quotations, and within our quotations, we're going to add Firebase /core. And next, we're going to add pod /Firebase /Firestore. All right. So make sure there's no typos. Okay, let's save our pod file. So we're going to go ahead. I want you guys to copy this this command, and let's open our iOS folder, and let's paste in that command. Okay, now that our CocoaPods have been completed its update, let's go back to Xcode, and let's wait for our files to finish processing as well. Let's go ahead and get our application up and running on our emulator. Okay, cool. So if your screen looks identical to mine and you're actually able to get your React Native code up and running on your emulator, you have successfully installed React Native Firebase. Hey, what's up, geeks? So I'm actually continuing this video the morning of the next day. So if you ever see me change like this, is because I'm recording the video at different times, and it is what it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and open our project in WebStorm. Most likely WebStorm is gonna open another project, but I'll make sure I just close that one out. All right, now let's get into building our project. The first thing we're gonna do, well, our goal right now is only just to get something on our screen. So I want to make sure that we're actually successfully connecting to Firebase. So we're going to go ahead and just delete everything that we have within our app.js file. All right, we're going to start by importing React. And we're going to import use effect. Whenever I reference React, it automatically populates my components in use state. Okay. Import React. All right. Next, we're going to import from React Native. Import our style sheet. Going to import text. Import our view. And import flat list. All right. Next, we're going to import Firebase from React Native Firebase. And I like how it automatically populates like that. It looks pretty cool.
with this effect. I'll just ignore that for right now. So this is going to be a functional component. So we're going to convert our app into a functional component where it started as a state, well, a class component. And let's return. All right. So actually, I'm going to do my take care of the view first. So we're going to have a view component. Within our view, we're going to have another view. All right. And then within that, we're going to have let me see. So actually, before I put that logic in there, I'm going to go ahead and just add our styles. We're going to set it equal to our style sheet dot create. Let's add our container. And the container is going to have the flex of 1. The background color, I went with React's default background color that it gave me. So that is, we're going to get the pound F5 FC FF. Align items. We're going to set its value to center. And justify content. We're going to set its value to flex start. Okay. So I hate the new prettier that React has actually added to its packages when it gets built, man. I like using single quotes, but it is what it is. So next we're going to add our content. We're going to give it the margin top 75 and also text. We're going to give that the font size of 12. Color is going to be black. And the font weight is going to be bold. So now I'm going to export default our app. Okay, guys, now let's continue. I might have to get rid of that prettier style or whatever. I had to remove that from my application because it was annoying me. But anyways, now before we add our text component, I'm going to actually add our state to our application. So let's go ahead. We're going to create a variable. We're going to use a const. We're trying to get our thoughts, and we're trying to set our thoughts. We're going to set this equal to useState, and its default value is an empty array. All right. So within our view, we're going to add some logic. And we're going to say if our thoughts dot length, if this is true, we're going to go ahead. We're going to add our flat list. All right. So we're actually not going to use these props. We're going to use our data. So our data is going to be our thoughts and our key extractor. This is going to be our item dash thought. And we're going to, what's that? Set our render item Let's set this equal to our this is actually our component that we're trying to get to run. So return, I'm going to return our text. Looking at way too many things at once. Our item.thought. All right. In the render item, we're going to reference our item as well. Okay. And if our length is false, we're just going to return our text, and that's going to read loading. Okay. Now let's add our update our state. So we're going to add use effect. All right, now let's reference Firebase. And we're going to, we want Firestore. Snapshot. Let's see, on snapshot. We want to get our snapshot. We're going to create another variable titled new thoughts. We're going to set it equal to snapshot.docs.map. We're going to get our doc. And we're going to return each one of our documents with an ID. And we're going to use our spread operator to make sure our data stays associated with our ID. I got rid of it. All right, so now when we go back to our key extractor, I'm going to go ahead and just update this item thought to ID. All right. Now, lastly, let's go back to our function. There's one thing I left out. So we have to go ahead. Let's make sure we add empty, an empty array right after our last curly bracket. And then also we're going to set our thoughts. Use our set thought, and we're going to pass in our new thoughts. Okay. Now let's add some styling. So we're going to give our first view, use our style property. Styles.container. Next, we're going to reference our style. For our next view, we're going to reference our styles.content. And lastly, we need to add some styling to our text component. So we're going to use our style prop. We're going to reference our styles.text. All right. So it looks good. Let's go to our emulator. Okay, so I got this error, and that's because I'm referencing Firestore. It's supposed to be lowercase. We also have to reference our collection. So on collection, let's see, collection. And that's going to be my thoughts. Let me check that out. My thoughts too. And we also have to update. This was the old name that I gave it. thought text. If we go back to Firestore, we can actually see that that's what we're trying to reference, our thought text. So I'm going to go back, reference our thought text, save it, and now let's check out our application. And as you can see, now we're getting our information successfully is being pushed, sent back to us from Firebase. And if I refresh it, you should be able to see the loading briefly. For a brief second, you saw loading. But anyways, that was what I wanted to get. I wanted to get something on our screen, and now I'm going to set up some styling. Okay, so before we update our styling, we're actually going to refactor our application. So within our app.js file, I want you guys to go ahead and do, we're going to go to our, we're going to create a source directory. Within our source directory, we're going to create a containers folder. We're going to create an images folder. And we're going to create a utilities folder. Now, within our containers folder, we're going to create two, actually we'll just start with our home containers. We're going to create a home container. Within our home container, we're going to have an index.js file. And within our home container, we're going to create another directory titled the home view. And our home view is going to have an index.js file. And we're going to go ahead and within our app.js, we're going to go ahead and just copy everything we have here. We're going to paste that into our home view index.js file. All right. So make sure everything looks good. Make sure we update this from app to home. Home view. And this is going to be home view. Okay. Now, also within our home view directory, we're going to create a styles.js file. And we're going to go ahead and open our home view index.js file. And we're going to scroll down and grab all of our styling. Let's cut that out. Go to our styles. And now let's paste in our styles just like that. And now within our home view, we're going to import our styles from our styles directory, our styles file. We can go ahead and just remove this. Now let's go to our app.js file. I want to import our, well, one second. Before we actually do that, within our source directory, our containers, let's import our home view. And now let's export default our home view. Now usually within our containers directory, our containers index.js file, this is where we hold our state, this is where we hold our redux, things like that. Right now, because the application isn't as granular, we really don't have to do that right now, but we will do that in a later video. So just go ahead and just follow along. So within my app.js file, I'm going to import my home container from I'll just go ahead and import home view from containers.homeview. You see that? Now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to remove our use effect, all this stuff. And I'm going to remove everything within our return. I'm just going to plug in our home view. We could also remove our styling. Don't need that anymore. Okay, we should be good, just like that. Also, we can move some of this stuff that we're no longer using. Import React from React. Okay, now let's go back to Xcode. And it looks like our emulator is still running. I'm going to go ahead and refresh it, reload it just to see. Yep, our thought is showing. Now let's go back to our home view. We'll close some of these. Now within our home view, we're going to go ahead. I want you guys to. We're going to go ahead and just cut out our Firebase query. Now within our utils directory, we're going to create a new file titled Firebase queries.js. All right. We're going to create a function titled get thoughts. And we're going to paste in our Firebase query. And then we're going to create a parameter that's going to be called setThoughts. All right. And let's make sure we export this as well. Now within our home view, we're going to go ahead and we're going to import our get thoughts function, and we're going to add it to our use effect, and we're going to set our thoughts function into there. Say that. Now let's check our emulator. Yep, we're still getting our thought to show up. Okay, so everything's looking the way that it should. Now what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to actually set up our application's navigation. So, 1 second. Within our utilities folder, we're going to create another file titled routes.js. All right, so for those of you who have been doing React Native for some time now, I feel like within this last year, React navigation has updated the way that you actually create navigation about 2 times, maybe 3, but I'm sure it was twice they've actually updated. So here's the most recent update they've had to React navigation. It's probably the most complex way that they've actually had made it ever since it's been created. So we're going to go ahead and import React from React. And now let's import from React Native. We're going to import touchable opacity. And next we're going to import our navigation container. Actually, before we even do this, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go to React Navigation's website and follow with some installation process. Navigation. All right, so to get started, we're going to run this command in our terminal. I'm going to open my terminal. Go to my desktop, my thoughts, and I'm going to run the command, paste in the command that we just took, and I press enter. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, make sure there's no more dependencies. Okay, dependency into a bare React Native project. We're going to go ahead, copy this as well, then go back to our terminal and then paste that in. All right. Now we need to run this command within leave out the npx. Just grab pod install iOS. So we're going to go back to our terminal, then we're going to switch our directory to iOS, and then run that command. Pod install iOS. Leave out the dash, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead for this project. We're going to run pod repo update. Okay, so now it looks like the installation is complete. We're going to copy this, and now within our index.js file, our application's main root directory in the index.js file, we're going to add React Native gesture handle right at the top. Make sure it doesn't go, you're not adding it anywhere below any of your other imports. It has to be at the top. Okay, so we're looking good right now. So there's also another thing we need to do for our stack navigation. So yeah, so within our stack navigation, we have to go ahead, we have to run the command npm install React Native stack. So let's make sure we go back one directory and then run that command npm install React navigation /stack. All right, so now that we finished installing everything, let's go back to our text editor IDE. Now let's continue where we left off. Within our routes.js file, we're going to go ahead and now we're going to import. Let's go ahead and import our image as well. And I'll touch base on how we're going to use images a little bit later. Let's import navigation container from React Navigation Native. And then we're going to import create stack navigator from React Navigation /stack. All right. So we're going to import our const home stack. And we're going to set it equal to create stack navigator, just like that. And now we're going to create another variable titled thought icon. We're going to set it equal to require /images /header /thought icon png. Now, I actually paused this video so I can actually add those images. So there's a link in the description that you can click on and actually you can get those images from and then follow along. As you can see in our images, we have a header directory. And we also have 3 images. All right, so I thought icon. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and close that. Make sure you guys download those images. And now let's continue. So for our screens, we're going to import our our home screen from containers /home container. All right. And then we're going to create, sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and create another screen for the time being. Within our containers, I want you guys to create a directory titled add thought. Make sure you add a, oh man, we refactor this. Add thought. Make sure you add a index.js file. And then we're going to create another directory titled add thought view. And we're going to add an index.js file to that. So I'm going to create a default React Native functional component. Name it add thought. Okay, add thought view. Okay, we're going to import from React Native. We're going to import our view. Import our text component from React Native. And let's make sure we add our view component to our return. Text, add thought. All right, and I'm just going to give it some default styling for right now. Yeah, give it flex 1. Let's say align items. Set that equal to center. And justify content, we're going to set its value equal to center as well. Okay, now let's go back to our routers. Well, let's import our add thought view into our add thought container index.js file. This is where we're at right now, our add thought containers. I'm going to have to refactor that again and export default add thought view. And our add thought, we're going to refactor it. Forgot to add container. Okay. Now we're back in our index.js file of our routes file. Excuse me. All right, now we're in our routes file. So I want you guys to import your add thought screen from containers / add thought container. All right. Now we're going to create our home stack screen. So home stack screen. And this is going to be a function. And we're going to return. So for those of you who have been using React Native for some time now, this is looking very, very different for the way that they're handling navigation now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our add thought. What we're going to do, we're going to reference our home stack that we just created. So we're going to reference our home stack. Hold on. All right. So we're going to reference home stack dot navigator. All right. And then after that, we're going to reference our home stack dot screen. All right. And now within our home stack screen, we're going to go ahead and we're going to, let's see, we're going to add our name, or our name property, name, and then we're going to title it My Thoughts. And it's going to be use our component property. We're going to set it equal to home screen. All right. So we can go ahead. We don't need this part right here, this last home screen part. We can go ahead and just remove that. And then add a backslash. And that's all we have to do. All right. We're going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go ahead and copy what we have here. And I'm going to say, title this add thought. This is going to be utilize our add thought screen. All right. And next we're going to create another function. We're going to title it app navigation. It's going to be an arrow function. We're going to return. And within our return, we're going to add our navigator container. Now, between our navigator container, we're going to go ahead and add our home stack screen. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and export default our app navigation. All right. So back to our app.js file. We're going to go ahead and just import. We're going to import our app navigation from our source. Then we're going to go to our utilities and our routes. And we're going to go ahead and just cut out our home view and add app navigation. Move our home view. Save that. And now let's check out our emulator. I might have to refresh this. Okay, so now you can see we have a header. For what I had to do, I had to actually stop the application and then press play. So you guys might have to do the same thing. So go ahead and do that. And we're going to go back to our IDE or text editor and continue with our routes.js file. Now, we're going to go ahead and add some styling to our header. So you can add some styling to your header by using the options property. And we're going to, within our curly brackets, we're going to add some braces, and then we're going to make some more curly brackets. And then after our brace, we're going to add an arrow function, and we're going to add another brace, curly brackets, and then we're done. Sometimes it can get kind of confusing, at least for me, to like add everything in. But anyways, now we're going to utilize our tab bar label property, and we're going to title this home. And next we're going to use our header title style property, and we're going to give it the font size of 20 and the color of black. All right. Next, for our header style, we're going to add the background color. B0, D0, D3. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to save this and see what our header looks like right now. Okay, so the reason our header color isn't updating is because I just added background. So I got a background color, save that. And now, yeah, when we go back, you can see we actually have our background color showing in our header. All right. So I don't know why we're getting this warning. Anyways, I'll address that later because it does have an effect on the header. So let's continue. Now for header right, we're going to add this. And header right, sorry about that. Let's actually remove this curly brackets, and this is going to be a function. So it's going to be arrow function, and we're going to return. And we're going to return, we have to scroll up. We already have our touchable opacity installed. So let's go ahead and add our touchable opacity component. Now within our touchable opacity component, we're going to go ahead and add our image component. And its source is going to be our thought icon that we just imported earlier. Make sure you guys actually grab those images. And now for our touchable opacity, we're going to give it the style, use the style property, and we're going to give it the margin right of 20. And resize mode, we're going to set this equal to contain. And on press, add our on press property, or on press property, arrow function, add our curly brackets, and now we're going to add navigation. Dot, 1 second, make sure not leaving anything out. Yes, within our options, let me see, do we add that? Within our options, we're going to add navigation, our navigation property. Yeah. Now, we're going to reference our navigation parameter that we just added. And then we're going to say navigate. We're going to navigate to add thought. And the screen that we're going to reference is our add thought screen. All right. Let's go ahead, check that out. All right. Okay. Cool. Let me make sure everything's good from here. Okay, so now let's see how things look in our emulator. You can see we're getting our add thought icon on the right side of our header. We click on that. Now we navigate it to our add thought screen. We can go back. All right, so now let's continue on with our styling for our header. Now within our home stack for our add thought, we're going to go ahead and add our options property. Make sure we add our curly brackets, and we're going to add our tab bar label. Set its value equal to add thought. The header title style, we're going to set its value equal to, or we're going to give it the font size of 20, Give it the color of black. All right. Next, we're going to add our header style. I'm going to give it the background color that we added right here. Okay. And then also we're going to add header back title visible. And I don't know about you guys, but I didn't like that it showed the home thought attached to the back button. So I'm going to go ahead and just set its value equal to false. Now we save that. We go back to our emulator. As you can see, we can go back and we're no longer getting our home, my thought. So we're no longer getting my thoughts label showing right next to our back button. Okay, so now guys, what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to update our add thought screen. So I want you guys to go into your add thought view, index.js, and now let's get started. So I want you guys to go ahead and remove everything that we have here, just get it clean. We're going to add our view component, and we're going to add another view component. All right, so let's make sure we add our style property to our first view. We're going to give it the value of styles.container. Next, we're going to add our style property to our next view, and we're going to give it the value of styles.category container. Okay, now let's go ahead and just import our style sheet from React Native, and we're going to create a styles object using our style sheet.create. And let's go ahead and add our styling. Okay, so our container is going to have flex1 with the value of 1, flex with the value of 1, background color, we're going to give it the value of pound F5 FC FF. Line items, we're going to give it the value of center. And justify content, we're going to give it the value of center as well. And now for our category container, we're going to go ahead we're going to give it the background color, pound F1 F2 F5. And we're also going to use flex direction. This value is going to be row, border radius. We're going to give it the value of 10, margin top. We're going to give it the value of 20, height. We're going to give this the value of 35, width. We're going to give it the value of 90%. Shadow color, we're going to give it the value of 00000. Shadow offset, this is going to be an object, and we're going to set the width to 0 and the height to 1. Next, we're going to add shadow opacity. We're going to give that the value of 0.18. Shadow radius. Whoa. Our shadow opacity is not supposed to be a bracket, so make that change. Shadow radius. This is going to be 1.00. And elevation, we can just make this 1. And elevation is going to be 1. All right. So we shouldn't see anything different within our add container right now. Yeah, because there's nothing in there. Yep. Let's go back. Go ahead. Yeah, so let me refresh this. Okay, so our application is refreshed. Now, for justify content, this is not going to be center. This is supposed to be flex start. So make that update. And yeah, now we're getting our items little container to show at the top, which is what we wanted. So now let's actually add our items. So let's add our touchable opacity component. Well, first let's import it. Now let's add touchable opacity. We're going to add this 2 more times. Okay. Now within our touchable opacity, we're going to add our text component. And the first text is going to be funny. Our next text component is going to have important. And next one's going to have the value of crazy. All right. So now we're going to add to our text components. We're going to add the style. Add our style property. Add styles dot text style. And make sure you guys add this style to each one of our texts. And make sure our touchable opacity. Yes, in our touchable opacity, we're going to add styles as well. So make sure you add the styles style. I'm going to reference our styles dot category item. Let's add this to each one of our touchable opacities. Okay, now back to our styles. For our category item, we're going to add the width of 33%. Align items. We're going to give that the value of center. For justify content, we're going to give this the value of center as well. And border radius, we're going to give this the value of 10. Now for our text style, we're going to give it the font weight of 500. Now let's save this and check it out. in our emulator. All right, so things are looking good right now. So how do we actually show which item was actually clicked on? All right, there needs to be some kind of styling that shows that on the front end. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to add our state. So from React, I want you guys to go ahead and add in use state. Now let's follow along. We're going to add our category item, and then we're going to say set category item, set it equal to use state, and we're going to give it the default value of funny. So by default, funny will automatically be the item that is highlighted. We're going to do the same thing for our username. Let's see, set username. We can make these in lowercase as well. All right, and set this equal to use state. It's going to be an empty string. And we're going to do the same thing for thought. Set thought. Set this equal to use state. And its default value is going to be an empty string as well. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create some unique styling for each one of our items. So we're going to create a funny background color. We're going to set it equal to an empty object. And our funny background color dot background color, we're going to set it equal to null by default. We're going to do the same thing for our important background color. Another empty object. Important background color dot background color. Set this equal to null. And for our crazy background color, set this equal to an empty object. Crazy background color dot background color. We're going to set this equal to null as well. All right. So let's go ahead and update our styling for our touchable opacity. So let's add an array. And for funny, we're going to add our funny background color. Do the same thing for important. It's going to take an array of styles. It's going to take our important background color. And crazy is going to take the crazy background color. All right, so there shouldn't be any kind of changes. Yes, everything's still looking the same. Now, for some logic. Now, if our category item is equal to funny, we know by default the category item is equal to funny. So if it fits this condition, our funny background color dot background color is going to be equal to pound C08497. All right. And our important background color is going to be equal to null. And our crazy background color is going to be equal to null as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and check out. Let me see our text category item. Okay, so now we check out our emulator. As you can see, we're now getting this on our as a background color. So let's make sure we do the same conditions for our next 3 items. Else if our category item is equal to important, just copy everything we have here, paste that in, copy this, attach it to important, update the funny background color to null. Now let's go back. Let me see. Let me go ahead and just finish everything we have here. Else if, oh, and I know why it didn't change. We forgot to create the functionality for it. So if category item is equal to crazy, we're going to do the same thing. Copy this. No. All right. Good. Okay, cool. Now, our touchable opacity. Now we're going to utilize our onPress property. Now we're going to set our category item. We're going to set its value equal to funny for our first touchable opacity. I'm going to go ahead, copy this, and paste into our next touchable opacity. Update this to important. The same thing for our next category item. It's going to be crazy. Now let's check it out. We got our background. Well, we have our style to show, but let me see. We didn't add our array. So I thought I added the array to that. I must have made a mistake. I did. So I'm going to go ahead and update this. Grab our important. Okay, make this an array. Now add important. Do the same thing here. Okay. Make this important. And update this to crazy. Okay, now let's go back to our simulator. Now everything's looking the way that it should look. All right, cool. And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna console log this so we know that our values are actually coming back. So I'm gonna console log our category item. I'm going to inspect this. Okay. Now we go to add thought. The category item is funny. Now we click important to go back. The category item is important. We go to crazy. The category item is crazy. So everything's working the way that it should work. All right. All right. So let's go back to our text editor. Move our console log. Now let's continue where we left off. We're going to go ahead and add our form. So let's add our view, and we're going to give our view the styling of styles dot form container. Let's go ahead and add our, let's clean this up a little bit. Now let's add our text input component from React Native. And let's add our text component in between our view component. We're going to add that twice. Our first text component is going to be for our username, and our second text component is going to be for our thought. So let's add our styles property and set its value equal to styles dot username container. And for our next text input, we're going to give it the styles of styles. Actually, for this one, we're going to give it its own little styling, inline styling. So give it the width, and max width is going to be 100%. All right. So right after our first text input, we're going to go ahead and add another view, which I left out. And we're going to take our text input, our second one, and paste it in between our view. So our view is going to have the styling of styles dot thought container. All right. Make sure that looks the way it's supposed to look. So back to our text input. So our text input for our username is supposed to have the placeholder, and its value is going to be equal to username. And for our second text input, we're going to add the property multi-line. The placeholder is going to have the value of share your thoughts. And the placeholder text color is going to be equal to pound A E A E A E. All right, A E A E A E. So now let's add the styling. All right, for a form container, we're going to give it the width of 100%. Align items, we're going to give it the value of center. And for justify content, We're going to give it the value of flex start. Username container. We're going to give it the width of 90%. It's supposed to be in quotations. 90%. The height is going to be 40. The margin top of 5. And the margin bottom of 5 as well. Thought container is going to have the background color, with the value of F1, F2, F5. The border radius is going to have the value of 10. The width is going to have the value of 90%. The height will have the value of 40%. Shadow color, value of 000, which is black. And the shadow offset, actually we can go ahead and just copy what we have here for shadow offset and elevation and everything. Copy shadow offset, shadow opacity, shadow radius, and elevation. And just paste that in right after our shadow color. All right. Yeah, you should be completely fine. Now next, let me see, is that our thought container? Yes, I think that's what we have. That's all we need right now. So let's check it out in our simulator. As you can see, now we're getting our form to show just the way we wanted it to. So I'm going to go back. Now let's update our text inputs. Now for our text inputs, we're going to go ahead and add the onChange text property. We're going to give it the parameter of text. We're going to use our set username function and then add in our text. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just going to console log our username. Let's copy our on text change and then apply it to our second text input. And instead of referencing set username, we're going to say set thought. This is going to be our thought. And add our thought in there. All right, so let's save that. And I'm going to turn on our debugger. Okay, I'm going to go back to web. Now you go to our simulator. I'm going to type in GeekMODE. And type in, I love creating courses. Now I'll go back to our debugger. As you can see, GeekMODE. Let me see if and it's not showing GeekMODE because it's not showing the whole thing. Believe me, it's working. It's because our console log is below our set user text. But if you go back, you can see that everything's coming in the way that it should. All right, looking good. So now let's continue on. So now let's add our button. So after our view, we're going to go ahead and add the component touchable opacity. All right, we're going to give our touchable opacity the styling of styles dot button style. All right, let's add our button style. We're going to give it the width of 30%. Give it the height of 50. Give it the background color of B0, D0, D3. All right, align items by the value of center. Justify content, value of center as well. Border radius, the value of 10. Margin top with the value of 5. Margin bottom with the value of 5 as well. And then we're going to grab all of our shadow, everything from shadow color to shadow offset, shadow opacity, shadow radius, and elevation. We're going to paste that into our button. All right. So in between our touchable opacity, we're going to add our text component. And we're going to give it the text of share thought. And the style we're going to reference is our text style. All right, so if we say that, you can see we have our button showing. Our button doesn't actually do anything because we haven't created that functionality yet. So let's go ahead and do that now. With our touchable opacity, I forgot to remove these console logs. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So within our touchable opacity, we're going to add our on press property. And now we're going to reference Firebase. So I want you guys to let's make sure we import Firebase first. So import Firebase from React Native Firebase. So reference Firebase dot Firestore dot collection. We're going to reference our thoughts collection. We're going to add to our collection. We're going to add our category item. Excuse me, our category. And this value is going to be set equal to our category item. Our comments, because this is a new thought, the comment count will be 0. We're going to do the same thing for likes count. Set this equal to 0 as well. Thought text will have the value of the thought. And I may set up some kind of error handling in the future, but for right now, if our thought is true, because right now by default our thought is empty. If we scroll up, as you can see, the initial state is empty. Where are we at? So if our thought is not empty and it's true, we're going to use our thought. Else, if our thought is empty, we're going to go ahead and say, I had a good day. And this is going to prevent empty data being added to our database. All right. We're also going to reference our timestamp. For that, we're going to give it the value of Firebase.Firestore.field value .server timestamp. And username, if username is true, we're going to set its value equal to username. Else, we're going to set the value equal to GeekMODE. You guys can go ahead and add your username. All right. Well, let me add some error handling as well. So, .then. So after this, just to make sure our thought actually went through, we're going to console log thought created. And if our thought wasn't added, we're going to add the error. We're going to console log our error. Okay. So debugger is up and running. So GeekMODE is the username. I love this. I'm going to go ahead and just refresh the emulator just to make sure everything's in sync. Okay, so now our simulator is back up and running. We'll go ahead, make it important, set the username to GeekMODE, and share your thought is, I love teaching React Native. All right, so I'm going to share my thought. If I go to the console, you can see thought was created, and now I'm in my database. And as you can see, GeekMODE, I love teaching React Native was added to the database. The category was added. And if we go back to our simulator, we now have I love teaching React Native showing on our screen.
Okay guys, so this is the end of our video. Now if you want to watch the remainder of the course, make sure you visit the website www.geekmode.tech. There you can discover other courses along with this course, or you can actually enroll in our free course. But go ahead and check that out if you guys are interested. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for any future courses in the future. Alright? So take care guys.